So thank you very much, Michael, for being here today. And thank you for taking care of our patients in Latin America. Most of the organizations in Latin America are looking for exports. And exporting is great, but there's a lot of need in Latin America and there's a lot of patients. We have 600 potential clients in Latin America. So it's great to see an amazing company taking this virgin market. So welcome, Michael, and let us know when you're ready to start.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Carol. Hi, everyone. And before I started, Jennifer, I wanted to just make a quick comment on your presentation. I think we absolutely need what you're doing in today's world. Too often we're driven by capitalism and making money. The UN Development Goals is something Cana Verde has looked at, not only from a gender equality standpoint, but also from the minimum wage standpoint, because minimum is in fact minimum. We should not be paying minimum wage in any of the activities that we undertake. And of course, for education and clean water and the government, the sustainability aspect of it. So thank you kindly. If there's anything that Cana Verde can do, or anything that you can do, you can ask of us. We'd be more than happy to put any of our employees for free to be able to assist
empleados para que gratuitamente puedan ayudarte en tu movimiento. Muchas, muchas gracias amablemente. Solo quería decir esto antes de arrancar. Gracias, Michael. Muchísimas gracias. Esto ha requerido mucho trabajo y mucho trabajo interior. Así no es solo negocios, para ser honesta. Es el alma y el espíritu que se buscan alinear con propósitos superiores. Así que muchísimas gracias. Gracias a todos y gracias, Carol, por habernos incluido en la cumbre. Yo represento a Cana Verde Pharma y recientemente informamos sobre nuestra adquisición del 50% de las
compounding pharmacies.
Empresas que está disponible en Colombia, lo cual nos pone a la vanguardia en cuanto a poder poner a la disposición medicamentos basados y nuestro enfoque es Colombia, pero vamos a enfocarnos en el espacio mayor de la América Latina también. Hablaré sobre esto en mi presentación. Así que si me permiten un momento, compartiré mi pantalla. Carol, ¿se me ve la pantalla?
Can anyone see my screen? Can anyone see my screen? Perfect. Thank you, Daniel.
Se ve muy bien. Gracias, Daniel. Gracias, señor Montero. Muy amable. Bueno, Cana Verde Pharma es una empresa domiciliada en Canadá con licencia para producir productos de cannabis medicinal en Colombia con un enfoque latinoamericano. Así que quiero dedicar un poquito de tiempo para dedicarme a enfocarme en 4 cosas. Los aspectos a destacar en cuanto a inversión: somos líderes en el mercado en América Latina, somos una empresa que tiene un margen de ingresos de alto margen, diversificado y escalable. Tenemos costos significativamente más bajos que nuestros competidores y tenemos un equipo gerencial experimentado compuesto de médicos, científicos, cultivadores, maestros y profesionales de inversión que tienen una experiencia comprobada en esta área. Nos enfocamos específicamente.
Our focus is the greater Latin America, as I mentioned. So Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Peru, Mexico, and vertical integration was something that we've looked at from the very beginning. And our strategy focused on medical cannabis to the local markets. So our strategy is different from some of our peers in the sense that we wanted to ensure that we have medical products available to Colombia first, to Colombians, and then focus on the greater Latin America after. There are some key facts here about Latin America. It has a fantastic population in terms of 655 million people, and we have fantastic opportunities for us to take advantage of the opportunities in Latin America. Specifically, total GDP at purchase power parity was $10.58 trillion. So we're talking about 16,000 US dollars per capita. Latin America has put in place trade agreements with Canada, with Chile, with Israel, with US, with the European Union, and we are now moving towards telemedicine as COVID-19 is having an impact on our operations and on the congregations of people. And more significantly, pharmaceutical expenditure in 2019 in Latin America was $157 billion. So we believe that there is a lot of space for us to be able to introduce medical cannabis-based products for a variety of conditions. And we're talking about chronic pain, we're talking about depression, we're talking about epilepsy, anxiety, sleep deprivation, and a variety of other medical ailments that we think medical cannabis has a fantastic role to play. So a very large potential for us in terms of 68 million qualifying patients within this space. Cana Verde has a simple strategy in place. So we're talking about the 4P strategy. So production, prescription, pharmacy, and products. There will be a fifth element to our strategy, which we will have shortly, and that includes the insurance coverage that we're working on first and foremost in Colombia, whether that be private insurance or public or government insurance. So on the production side, our wholly owned asset, Green Health Colombia, holds all of the licenses required for us to create commercial cultivation and to be able to service the Latin American market. Specifically, we're talking about cultivation, extraction, manufacture, domestic distribution, and export of both psychoactive and non-psychoactive medical cannabis. We've also registered 8 strains with the Colombian Agricultural Institute that gives us the right to commercially cultivate, as well as we have 57 additional strains in the documentation stage for us to be able to get approval to go forward. These strains include high CBD, high CBG, high THC, and a variety of other cannabinoids that we're only now starting to understand. On the prescription side, we've partnered with Saludar, which I will talk about as well, for us to be able to offer prescription medication through doctors, whether from Saludar or elsewhere in Colombia and Latin America. And medical precision care kind of makes us now in front of the patient and allows us to create a wide range of pharmaceutical products. And not only that, but medical precision care has been licensed by INVIMA, which is the FDA of Colombia, for us to be able to manufacture these products. And not only that, but we can separate cannabinoids with 99.9% purity. And then on the product side, we're focusing on a variety of products. So we're focusing on the medical aspect, but we're also looking at the topical side of it, whether through a medical prescription or through over the counter. We're also looking at CBD for pets. We understand that they also have a need for very clean CBD quality products, soft gel capsules, topical creams, soap, and after sun cream. So we have a wide variety of product that we will bring into market through our partnerships. We have some revenue projections, and I wanted to focus on Colombia to start. So in Colombia, we believe that there are about 5.6 million medical cannabis patients. So 5.6 million represents about 10% of the population. Total healthcare expenditure in Colombia was $22 billion US. So we anticipate that the projected average yearly spend per patient will be about $540 US per year. So that turns out to be about $45 US per month. So what we have done is that our focus for 2021 is going to be to acquire 10,000 patients, which will then be full-time subscriber to our prescriptions and will have the ability to generate about $5.4 million US in revenues. 10,000 patients represents 0.18% of the 5.6 million patients. So the goal for 2021 is the acquisition of these 10,000 patients. And as we go through the years, we will acquire 10,000 patients every year to continue our quest to get to 50 to 100,000 patients in the next few years. So 0.18% is a very small number. And as we basically understand and we've done a lot of education campaigns, obviously people have access to the news and they see the medical market and the uses of medical cannabis. Obviously, Germany is a huge market, the United States as well with the medical cannabis states. So we know that medical cannabis is a very important tool for us to have prescriptions to a variety of ailments. And the payment methods available for now in Colombia are out of pocket, but we're working with a private insurance company as well as the government to have coverage for people through their insurance scheme. That we believe that there should be coverage on the insurance side because this is going to be an important element towards the chronic pain, the sleep deprivation, cancer patients that are going through chemotherapy. They for appetite stimulation. So there are a variety of uses. We have a research and development with one of the biggest hospitals in Colombia. So you can see here, top right is the Colombian hospital. On the bottom is the international hospital called Foscal. So our chief medical officer, Dr. Ivan Osma, and his wife, Dr. Andrea Galvis, have been instrumental in assisting us with penetrating the medical cannabis market in Colombia. So this will allow us to bring forth and the goal is to have a medical clinic within lots of hospitals throughout the country. And outside of that, just like we would have a chronic pain clinic, a dermatology clinic, a foot clinic, we would like to get a medical cannabis clinic within the hospital scene. And that would enable doctors from a variety of different spheres to be able to send patients to us to provide medical cannabis prescription and ultimately covered by insurance. So this is the one of its kind in the country, and we're working to bring forth this and to turn this into a partnership that will help a significant amount of people within the country. The second part of the strategy is the prescription and pharmaceutical formulation. So this is where medical precision care kicks in. So they are one of the few companies that exclusively focus on the research and development of cannabis-based pharmaceutical products. So we're licensed in terms of INVIMA. We can separate cannabinoids to 99.9% purity, and we will start manufacturing sublingual drops, topicals, capsules. You can see the patch, the CBD patch that we will bring to market very, very shortly. So we have a variety of products that are now ready to go for sale in Latin America and in Colombia as well. We also have a program that for those that would benefit from medical cannabis, but that cannot afford payments, we also have ways for us to be able to deliver this cannabis-based medication. And also that goes in line with what Jennifer is saying, that we would be responsible citizens, not only in Colombia, but on this planet, and helping those that need help. Green Health Colombia, which is the vertical integration aspect of it. So we have licensed it fully, like I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. So this gives us the ability to cultivate and extract high quality, no pesticides, natural products that will actively be called active pharmaceutical ingredients. And we will be able to get these ingredients to patients through the prescription model. You can see some pictures here of the facility. It's about 81,000 square feet. So all of the plants are grown in pots. The water that we put, the nutrients that we add, everything is properly monitored to ensure that they are of the highest quality. So this is the Green Health Colombia aspect of it. We have also entered into a co-development and distribution agreement with one of the largest companies in the country called JGB. So JGB they have 1,000 employees. They're based out of Cali. They've been around since the late 1800s, and they have a long history of bringing products to market, and successful products at that. So we're excited about this partnership and how we bring CBD product lines to market as we develop the industry and we continue to bring forth these changes. We've also had a distribution agreement with Faranda Hotels. Obviously, COVID-19 has had a severe impact on tourism as a whole. We know that Cartagena is one of the most traveled to destinations in Latin America. So unfortunately, COVID-19 has put a severe dent on congregation of people. And obviously, our hearts go out to the people that depend on the tourism industry. But we feel that once we are past this pandemic, tourism will be back in very large numbers. I feel like every friend that I talk to has a trip planned as soon as this happens, as soon as we get ready to be able to do so. So we're comfortable that this will be a fantastic partnership for us in the months and years to come. The management team, we've cultivated one of the best in the country. I wanted to highlight a few individuals. I have from my background, I have a finance background, a CFA charter holder, but I've worked on the investment side for two of the more important institutions in Canada, one being Gluskin Sheff, which is a hedge fund, and the other being the private family office of the inventors of BlackBerry. So I've learned from some of the best what it takes to build companies and how to do so in a way that is a responsible stakeholder for all of those involved. Eduardo Mayorga is the CEO of Green Health Colombia. He is the gentleman that is in charge of the organization in Colombia. He is the face of the company in Colombia, and he is a project manager, one of the best at what he does. And he's worked on the Bogota Free Trade Zones, the El Dorado Airport, BP Oil and Gas. So he has significant experience with foreign investment in Latin America and specifically Colombia. Paul is our CFO. He's worked in Colombia over the last 10 years. And he has a lot of experience with a variety of countries, both in Canada and in Colombia. Ivan Osma is our chief medical officer, who's a graduate of Harvard and Johns Hopkins. So he is one of the most important people on our staff, because not only is he one of the more important doctors in the country, but he opens a lot of doors for us to be able to bring forth this. And we have our master grower, Shane Whelan Stubbs, who's in charge of the cultivation, and Dr. Peter Chen, who's in charge of the science behind us. I also wanted to highlight Carlos Ulloa, who's the former team physician for the Colombian national soccer team, football to those that are non-American. So Dr. Ulloa has served also on the Olympic team, the tennis federation. So he is one of the most important team physicians in the country. And we would like his assistance in bringing products, not only for high-end athletes, as CBD is now allowed, and the Tokyo Olympics will not screen for CBD as a narcotic, but as we bring forth products to patients within Colombia. Dr. Luis Villegas is a pain specialist and anesthesiologist. So we're going to use his expertise to be able to deal with chronic pain. And Javier Patino used to be the CEO of Yambal, and through Quaker Oats as well, with the Gatorade division, bringing that product into Latin America. So I think we have a fantastic team. We've delivered on everything that we set out to deliver. Some took a little bit longer than others. Most of us did not predict a global pandemic, and obviously the regulatory risk in terms of working with government to be able to get all of these licenses in place. So we're now at a point where the main goal of Cana Verde Pharma is revenue generation and giving back to the community as well. Our capital structure is very clean. We've done 2 capital raises for a total amount of $5.7 million. And that most of that money has been invested in Colombia, not only through job creation, but through most of the work that we do, most of the staff that we have, most of the hires that we do is done in Colombia. We have very few Canadians or others on staff because we are now a responsible corporate citizen in the country of Colombia, and we want to be able to take advantage of that and give back as much as we possibly can. So the first capital raise was $2.135 million at a 30-cent Canadian valuation. And the next one was $3.595 million in a debenture at convertible at 60 cents. So we have a valuation equity of 7.2 million, $10 million if we factor in the debenture on a fully diluted basis. We're raising up to 5 million Canadian. It's an unsecured debenture. We can talk about the terms of that. But basically, this last capital is going to assist us in the revenue generation aspect of the business now. We no longer have any regulatory risk when it comes to the licensing process, either for medical precision care or for green health or for any of the institutions that or any of the stakeholders that we have in place. So we want to get our GMP compliance on the laboratory, and obviously now to develop the proprietary medical products to assist doctors and clinics with prescription of cannabis-based medication, to start the clinic program. We plan to start about 3 or 4 clinics throughout Colombia to be able to offer these prescription medications, and also for general working capital purposes. We believe that this is the last money we will ever raise. And as we get revenues in, will be sustainable in terms of revenue generation as well as cash flow positivity, which has been something that a lot of Canadian cannabis companies and elsewhere haven't been able to do. So we've been very fantastic stewards of capital. And that is the presentation. Thank you all for your time. I welcome any questions, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Excellent presentation as usual. Excellent pitch. I would like to welcome our sharks, John Nemanik, Matthew Nordgren, Jimmy Sullivan, and Raul Elizalde. I would like to each of you to make a brief presentation. So please go ahead, John. Welcome, John.
Pleasure, Carol. Thank you again for inviting me here. I really love doing your events. As you know, I have to be very selective because my schedule is just so tight. Wanted to say, by the way, Gene, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I learned a lot. It gives me comfort. From my perspective, I look at the war on drugs as an abomination the idea that we're imprisoning people for what, for me, is not a moral crime. It is not a criminal issue. It's a mental health issue, right? And people shouldn't be punished because they have issues, problems with their health, mental or otherwise. So to me, I hope and I pray in the next year or so, there'll be some sanity in this area. As for myself, just very briefly, I've been in public markets for many decades. I back in the late 1990s, 2000s, took 3 different companies public. One company was called Internet Direct. We merged with Look Communications, and the transaction was valued at $560 million. Michael, you can look that one up if you want to have some fun. Tell you what happened afterwards. And another transaction called 2 Cows that we sold for $45 million US to the Steinmetz Group. And our last company, which was called Hostopia, we took public on Toronto, 29.2 plus the green shoe. We sold for 124 million US to the, gosh, I'm drawing a blank, Deluxe Communications. Currently, by the way, the market cap of 2 Cows, which we sold for 45 million, is in excess of 700 million. So I guess we're not geniuses, but we still made a buck, so it's better than a kick in the butt. May I lead now, Carol, with my questions? And I have 2 questions actually for Michael.
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Okay. So Michael, first of all, just a side note, I'd like your capital structure. It's very tight. With respect to partnering with clinics, I'm still trying to understand. And you know what? I should preface this by saying that we may have a potential conflict of interest in the sense, I'm saying this for the benefit of the audience, not between us. Medical Precision Care by Juan Carlos Rey, good friend. My wife, Dr. Santa Cria, knows him well. We are currently negotiating with Medican IPS to buy your product. So everybody knows that there's a relationship there. Yeah, exactly. And if they think I'm conflicted, well, you can ignore anything else I have to say. So what my question is about your model for partnering. And now, are you planning to actually open your own proprietary clinics in the similar fashion to what another company in Colombia did? Or are you planning to license your products to various IPSs? Or are you planning to do both?
Both. So we're planning to do both. We believe that we should not, the more we are able to offer to the prescription medical market, the better it is for all of those involved. So we would like to not have patients go to our own clinic in order for them to have access to prescription medication. So we are doing both in the sense that we are going to open clinics throughout Colombia to offer patients the ability to have access to it. But mostly we would like to focus on the latter part of what you stated in terms of having any doctor in the country be able to prescribe medical cannabis and for us to deliver it through medical precision care.
Okay. You might want to consider the fact that any data you collect from proprietary clinics that you completely own may not be seen as reliable or from a third-party perspective. And when I make that statement, this is the opinion, not of myself, but of many medical doctors who have used the models of other companies and believe that that data may not be as valuable. And for me, well, yeah, and coming from an IT background, to me, that is the new gold. So that's kind of how I look at it, right? Now, on a separate perspective, exit strategy. Now, I looked at the way you've structured yourself. As I understand it, you have a Canadian subsidiary, and it holds the Colombian company, if that's correct. Right. And if that isn't, and so since you've confirmed that, I just find it interesting that you may or may not know, probably know, that there's another company that raised 30 million US through a Reg A in the United States. And is opening up. Yeah, well, there you are. I didn't say it, so nobody's going to get angry at me. And we also know what we also know what was done with that SPAC as well, right? So, which is a kind of a good deal. Give Clever Leaves credit for that one, right? Anyways, my question to you is this: given the way you've structured yourself, given the way you're structured, it would seem to me that you're well positioned to do a exit, so to speak. It's a partial exit, but you know what I'm saying. It would seem to me that you're in a good position to do some form of liquidity transaction for shareholders in the next little while. And I don't know at what liberty you are to confirm that, but maybe if you can, please amplify upon it.
Absolutely. So we've been in discussions for a variety of different liquidity events. Obviously, we're a private company, and we've had the pleasure and the fortune to not go through wild swings on the stock market. We've seen some of our peers go from 10 to 15 million to 60 to 70 million, and unfortunately some people bought at those valuations and now are sitting with severe losses on their investments. So we're fortunate to have been a private company. At the same time, we are looking into a public listing, whether in Toronto but also in the United States of America. Gene, thank you very much for your presentation, and I wanted to tell you that we tried to open up a bank account in Colombia, and obviously a lot of Colombian banks and international ones are leery of cannabis involvement due to the fact that then they won't have access to the Federal Reserve System, which a bank without access to New York is not a bank anymore. But we've been able to go through a 6-month process and we opened our bank account. So we would like to have a liquidity event in Canada. We've gone through all the steps. We have audited financial statements. All our ducks have been lined up properly for us to take advantage of that. And now it's just a matter of doing so in a prudent manner. We're not here to basically build a company, have it go to 60 million, exit our position, and see you later. We're here to build a specific company in place to be able to take advantage of the opportunities and to be around for a long time. So we have all of our ducks lined up to be able to have a liquidity event. And now it's just a matter of time of us choosing the right time to do so within the next few quarters. Possibly in the latter part of 2021, but also doesn't preclude us from going to public. So we basically, the way we look at it, since all of our ducks are in a row, within 90 days, if we started today, we can be a public company.
Yeah, I got that. I've looked through dozens of decks of companies in Colombia, and I'd put yours at the top. Good work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Do you just want us to jump in?
Yeah, sure, Jeannie. Please go ahead. Please introduce
Here we
yourself.
go.
Very,
Here we
very
go, Michael. I was all ready to tell you what an incredible story and journey and presentation that you put together, and I do mean that. However, I will tell you, I feel you have made a critical mistake, especially if you were, let's say, pitching to me, or I know many of my colleagues here, in telling me that this is the last money in. Now that I hear your crazy idea that you're going to take this company public, which many of your buddies have done with those RTOs, and you're not going to have much revenue when you do that, I don't like that. But let me go to the part that I'm honing in on. I don't want to hear that this is your last money. Here's why. I believe with all these partnerships that you've already lined up so brilliantly, and I mean it because most CEOs and business owners don't know how to do that when they need to do that. You've laid out many, so many, I'm not sure how you're going to spin all those plates at the same time. But my problem with telling me last money in is that what if you want to do exporting? What if you want to do expansion to other Latin American companies? What if you want to come into the US? I don't feel like 5 million and the teeny is going to take you there. Maybe your crazy RTO plan, which I say that with love and respect, because it certainly has promoted a lot of wealth and fabulousness for our US companies that did do that. But that I think is a curious way to go rather than, let's say, more classic building block, because you have all the right stuff to build it up, build a top line, and then do your RTO or reggae or some kind of other vehicle after you get some momentum at the top. And then you don't even have to tell me this is the last money in. Why not say to me in a year, let's assess if we should do expansion capital? Talk to us about those points.
Thank you kindly for that question. And I love the fact, I think that's the best question I've ever been asked.
Hey, listen, it took me 30 years and 1 minute to ask that question. So there.
The way I would position that is that I come from a school of thought that we should be able to take advantage of all the possibility, and we should be ready for such, so that if someone comes up to me and says, Mike, this is the opportunity available to you, but you need to have ready. We don't want to spend 3, 4, 5, 7 months being ready. I am not a fan of a go public transaction today. Okay. However, we're ready to do so in case something comes up. For example, you come up and you say, Mike, here's $5 million, but we're a fund and we would like you to be a public company. Not because we want to sell it, but because on our quarterly statements, we want to be able to have a liquid company So then I'm ready to do that if that is the case. However, the way I look at it, the last $5 million is that this is the last money in to be able for us to sustain our business. And I apologize, I should have been clear on that. This is not the last money in. For example, if we have the ability to transform our business with a deal in the United States or a deal in Europe or whatever else, and we raise money on the back of that, you're absolutely correct. We're ready for that. I should have been clear in the sense that most cannabis companies still require investment from investors to be able to operate. They are dependent upon it. And we see some of my peers, whether in Colombia or in Canada, have losses that they need to repair. And recently companies have announced massive deals in terms of raising capital, but they need to continue to raise capital because their cash flow statements show up a lot more out money than inside money. So that is basically what I meant to say, is that our cash flow statement should represent the fact that we're a company that takes more money in now that we have all of the licenses in place and we're ready to generate revenues, then money goes out, such that we don't need again to the market for us to be a self-sustaining company. We will go again to the market with a pitch that if we are to do something with a partnership with a United States company, then we should be able to raise capital on the back of that. So my apologies, I should have been clear, but this is the last money for us to be able to be a self-sustaining organization.
And thank you. No apologies, but it might be a tweak to your conversation to say it that way. It'll sit better, let's say, with serious institutional investors.
You're absolutely correct, and we'll now go forward not saying that, or at least having it qualified.
Very good.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions, Jeannie?
Oh, I got plenty, but let's let Raul and Matt jump in.
Okay. Matthew, how are you, Matthew? Are you here with us? Can you please present yourself in a brief statement and ask questions to Michael if you have any?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. Glad to be here with some friends. Glad to see you as well, friends. And Michael, great presentation. A lot of questions for you as well. And I think I was actually going to ask us or address a topic similar to Jean. And so I guess she'll have to ask your best question ever then, but that was actually going to be mine, which is that, but you also don't know who you're speaking to. This is a broad audience here. I assume if you were on the phone with me or Jean or some group, you would have identified what type of group they are, and you'd probably speak in a certain way. In that vein, my name is Matt Nordgren, founder and CEO of Arcadian Capital. And, we focus on growth equity investing. And, our hope is that we can not just make a return, but, be a part of adding value to a business to do that. And today we have 45 companies in this industry around the world, and have had a lot of exits. We have multiple funds. A lot of good things happening here, which only happens by the fact that the entrepreneurs deserve this. I mean, managers are totally driven by the work that you guys are doing. And in some sense, we're just out there fighting a battle for you guys while you operate. You're a former banker. You know what needs to be done to move that glass ceiling in a different place than it is today. And we're doing that. But I assume if you were talking to us as a growth equity investor, you'd probably speak to that point differently. We're not a hedge fund. We're not looking for pre-IPO trades. We want to create value. And in that sense, I agree with Jean. It's very important to us that there's an option on the table that allows for that to take place with our other 45 companies, our relationships. We can do something for you. It's not just an analyst equation on a trade. So that being said, I think that the presentation is wonderful. The other question I had was on the part of the slide which had indicated 93% of the potential consumers on the medical side have government insurance. I'd like to learn that a little bit more, if you can address that, because there are other countries in the world that have this same type of situation where you're not totally relying on some healthcare, private healthcare, or consumer to make a spend. If the government's going to allow you to do this, you can get those deals. That's pretty significant, especially at that number. So would like to just learn a little bit more about that, frankly.
Yep, absolutely. And thanks very much for that. So I just wanted to cover the first point that you made in terms of, so we have spent a great deal of time looking for partners and looking for people that we will be able to partner with and do stuff. As you know, it's better to do it together than alone. In that regards. And of course, we want to grow into a larger company. And I only mentioned that we possibly have the company is ready to undertake a lot of options on the table. Obviously, an RTO is not something that we are very keen to do, but our audited financial statements and everything point into the direction that we're basically ready to go should the situation arise. And we are looking for partners given our valuation.
Yeah.
I think
I hear you and I appreciate that. The only comment I'll make is if you were talking to me and I was a Canadian banker with an offshore hedge fund, you would probably say this is your last money, and I would be very thankful for that. But it just depends on who you're talking to. So I think we can all appreciate the statement.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. In Colombia, same as Canada, there is government insurance. So in Canada, most of Canadians are covered by a government insurance scheme with small co-payments. And so it's not like in the US where we have private insurance and it's tied to your employer. So in Colombia, 94% of all people are covered by the basic government insurance. So that's a significant amount of people that have this insurance. Now, what we have done up to now is that we haven't had products to be able to present, whether to private insurance companies or whether to the government insurance scheme, for us to be able to see if there is coverage on that for their constituents. So more than likely, the first step would be towards a private insurance scheme. So you'll be able to purchase a certain plan that contains medical cannabis. And then work with the government as well, because we do now finish products. So the goal would not be for the government to cover all cannabis-based products, but specifically for this condition, this prescription medication, and then they would cover that to all of those that they provide coverage with. So all I meant to say there was that 94% of Colombians have basic health insurance. And we are now talking with the government agencies to see what specific product would qualify for us to be able to do so. And we're having parallel discussion with private insurance companies to be able to see, because a lot of Colombians also have add-ons to the government insurance program, because that one's a basic one.
Thank you. Great.
Any more questions, Matthew? For Michael?
Oh, plenty, but that's a great start. Thank you.
Okay, great. We welcome Raul. Raul, are you here with us still?
Yes. Thank you, Michael, for your presentation. I think it was really good. In fact, the first time that I was in Colombia in 2016, I was expecting to see this type of presentation focus on, really focus on the medical and really focus on the patients, So I congrats for your presentation, but I have some questions that I would love to ask a little bit. We already this procedure or this road that you are walking right now, we already do it similar in Mexico, and we do something similar already, and we are doing something similar already in Argentina and Brazil, and our patient is growing over there with the operations that we had. In some places, we need medical prescriptions. In Mexico, we need it at the beginning. Then we change our plan, and now we don't need the medical prescription in our product. We are one of the only companies that are operating legally in Mexico at this moment. But my questions will be more focused on the product. In what status are you on the product? First, what type of products do you want to register? Are you want to register formulas magistrales, or are you going to register a common typical drug? What kind of product are you going to register? And the second one, in what part of the process are you in this part? Are you already submit your dossiers to the regulation agency in Colombia? What is the status of these ones? And the second one, and the third one, what will be the average price of the product for the patients? That will be my first questions about it, more about the products that you are going to sell. And the second one, you say that you are going to, you expect a revenue of $2,800,000 for 10,000 patients at the beginning. right now, what are your expenses in salary? What are your fixed expenses also at the moment of the company? How much are you spending right now at the year? How much do you expect to spend in 2021 if you are going to have a revenue of 2,800? Then there's something that I had it on my mind. You double your patients to 2022 from 10,000 to 20,000 patients, or you are making your revenue growing 4 times. So that means that all your patients you are keeping all your patients, and we know in this industry, if you see it in the pharma industry, and also if you see it in the cannabis industry, when you're talking medical cannabis, really medical cannabis, not adult use medical cannabis, but if you see it on medical cannabis, we see that you had that every year you also lost patients, so you are doubling and you are not losing any patients from 2021, and you are doubling your patients in 2022, and you are growing 4 times the numbers of your revenue. I think it's not bad, by the way, because the average for every patient, it's $280. So I think it's not so bad for the first year. Then you double your average for the next year. I don't think it's so bad, but I think you need to consider that you are going to lose some clients, and that will be my questions specifically. Thank you.
Perfect. Let's start with the beginning. Hopefully I remember every single one of them.
If not, I will tell you, don't worry.
So there are two different ways for us to proceed. So Formula Magistral, which is basically medical precision care, is registered to be able to provide those magistral formulas to patients. So we have the registration in place from INVIMA, which is the Colombian National Health Regulator. So that's there. In terms of topicals, CBD-based topicals, there isn't so much as registration as just putting the paperwork in place to be able to register the product. But you can go ahead and sell that product. It's not a registration process where you have to wait for them to give you the go-ahead. So those dossiers have been set up already. We were supposed to launch products in Q1, Q2 of 2020. Obviously, that changed due to the pandemic and the uncertainty regarding congregations of people and the ability of movement towards Colombia and then on the export market outside of that. So basically, the magistral formulas were ready now, and we've already fulfilled prescriptions on the magistral formula side within Colombia. And then on the topical side and everything over the counter, we have the ability to just let INVIMA know that this is what we plan to do. This is the product, these are the specifications, and then we're ready to go in terms of selling those over the counter. So those are two of our three revenue streams. The other one would be the distillate and the isolate side of it, which we have, and we're anticipating having sales on that as well. In terms of the patients, the reason the revenue numbers are different is that it's going to acquire us, because of this pandemic, it's going to acquire us some time to be able to get these 10,000 patients this year, again, due to the congregations of people. So what we said is that we're going to acquire some of those 10,000 patients for the remainder of 2021, whether that's 5,000, whether that's 6,000, whether that's 7,000, whether that's the whole 10,000. But as we acquire patients, for example, acquiring a patient in March or April means that we don't have the full prescription of the year. So that patient, instead of about $540 might be, $400 or half of that, depending on the acquisition. But for those 10,000 patients, we anticipate that there'll be full 10,000 patients for the year 2022, and therefore have $5.4 million in revenues just from that revenue stream alone, from the patient population spending $45 on average for their magistral formulas. So we've looked at specifics, and again, we are basically making assumptions, and inherently, if some of the biggest companies on this planet don't have, or they've pulled guidance from their financial statements because of the uncertainty here, there's a certain level of uncertainty regarding the numbers that we've put out as Cana Verde. But as we begin the year, maybe we'll have 15,000 patients at different points throughout this year. And therefore, in 2022, we'll have 15,000 patients, but we plan to replace those as well. So it's just a moving target in terms of that. The revenue numbers are increasing somewhat more after this year is because we have new revenue segments that come in. As we have the distribution agreement in Cartagena and elsewhere within Latin America, as the market opens up, that gives us the ability to get revenues from over-the-counter topicals market. So it's not simply just the prescription medication that's included in those revenue numbers, but rather 3 different revenue streams that we anticipate. And then we come into Latin America in terms of Peru, Chile, Argentina, Mexico, and how does that factor into having the ability to send these products into there. We've looked at Brazil, for example, in terms of the magistral formulas, if that works. So there's just so many different aspects that go into it. But as we continue throughout the year, we'll get different revenue streams. And then in 2022, hopefully the COVID-19 pandemic is behind us and we'll be able to take advantage of it.
The other question, what are your expenses right now, and what will be your expenses for 2021 regarding, put me the site salaries and then put me all the all the other type of expenses, general expenses.
So I like to take a personal note there. So due to the pandemic and everything else, I have not received a salary for 2020. So I've cut as much as possible in terms of, because now we're an organic operation, we're a going concern. So for us, all of these fixed costs cannot be spread over the revenue generation basis. So basically, over the last year, we've had to have fixed costs without the ability to generate revenues, simply because of not only the uncertainty, but the lack of movement of people towards the country. If we undertake a project and something happens where people are locked down, how does that affect the cultivation? How does that affect the extraction and everything else? So I have cut down as much salary as I possibly can from the management team. So none of the management team has received an income for 2020. And then we've tried to increase the salaries and the ability for us to pay people that actually require, not people, because we all require the capital, but people that are on the lower rungs of the pay scale, to be able for them to continue on to provide for their families and do everything as such. So we've cut as much as we possibly can, but we have licenses in place, we have facilities in place, 24-hour security because of our THC licenses. We need to keep those licenses valid. So we're about $75,000 a month in terms of fixed costs that we've been able to decrease to in that regards. I mean, it's been a very, very difficult time because we have to keep all of our licenses in place and all of our employees and the movement of people and so.
And how much do you expect in salaries? Because you don't pay salaries in 2020, and I understand, it's part of this pandemic and everything, and it's part of a company that it's growing, but you are going to pay them in 2021. So maybe we are going to see a big salary and a big, we will see something there in 2021. So how much do you are expecting to pay on salaries in 2021, and what will be the fixed salaries for all the corporate and all of you guys? How much are you getting paid on 2021?
Yeah, so basically, for 2021, we haven't made a decision. So I think for most of the year, or for the next, until we are at a point where we have significant or enough capital in the bank, none of the management team is going to receive any salary. So for January 2021, I and the management team have not received a salary. So then we'll make a decision in February and March. Now we have to take into account that people have lives and, they have children and they have families and they have everything else. But I guarantee you that we will not be even close to the salaries that you see in our industry. So okay. I'll give you an example myself.
But it will be good to know, a detail that tell you how much are you going to spend on this, because it's important, more of cannabis industries, some of them that they call that they are big ones, spend more in salaries than anything else, and that drives me crazy. Salaries in some companies it's more than 50% of their expenses, and it's completely true. It's completely insane. If you are going to tell me a number will be good, from the revenues, 15% is going to be salaries, 10% is going to be salaries, 20%. So somebody could give the idea of how profit this could be. And the last thing about I had a little bit of experience in other markets. I think you need to be very careful when we talk and we promise somebody that we are going to enter in different markets, because every market in Latin America has complete different regulations, and we see this every day. The regulation in Colombia, it's completely different than the regulation in Mexico. The regulation of Mexico, it's completely different than the regulation in Brazil. And I could continue telling all the Latin American countries. I believe that, yes, there is a need for APIs in this industry, especially for the pharmaceutical market, because all these Latin America countries, they are focusing more on pharmaceutical type of business instead of over-the-counter business that it's doing in United States with the CBD products, for example. So one of the things is being really careful and try to, when we promise going on to other areas, because if you want to go, for example, to Brazil, you will need then to have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials to register the drug. The same in Mexico, and you will need a big amount of money to invest on that trials to register the product. So that question was also with Jean questions about the money that you are going to need in the future, because if you want to enter this other market, you will need a big investment, or not a big, but you will need an investment to try to register this product as a drug. Because if your product is a drug, a Fórmula Magistral in Colombia could not be registered. You will need another step to register as a normal drug in Mexico, or you will need to partner with somebody else in Mexico, which will be something smart, and send your APIs to Mexico and manufacture in Mexico as a Fórmula Magistral. I think that is the way when you told in the presentation, I think that is smart, but you need to consider that every country is different and the regulation, we don't know too much about the regulation, how they are going to develop in each country. So we need to be careful to promise this to our investors, because sometimes we could not, complete, we could not,
I agree with you. And I know that, so our Cana Verde's main focus is Colombia. That's always been the case. And now basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to determine what is it that we can do in Peru and Chile and all of these countries that don't have cultivation, that don't have the ability to be able to, for example, Peru requires product. So now what we do is we partner with a company in Peru that has the import licenses and a bunch of other licenses and see how we can work together. The promise that I make all of the Cana Verde staff and investors is that our main focus is Colombia. And we have all the licenses and the tools and everything in place in a market of 50 million people with the ability to say that Colombia is 4 years ahead of most of the other jurisdictions within Latin America. And therefore, that's where most of our revenues will drive from.
Thank you, Michael. And, you answered the question really well. And honestly, for the Colombia market, I think you are focusing really correct. You are growing the way it should be, creating a market in the country. Most of the companies, they are just dreaming about exportation.
More.
Your company is putting the foots on the ground in Colombia, which I congrats for that. It's a hard work. I already do it in Mexico. We already do it in Brazil. We are doing it in Argentina. It's really hard and it's really challenging, but you are doing the correct way. This company you are creating, doing it, putting your foots on the ground in Colombia, and I congratulate you for that, because it's the first time that I see this type of presentation when you are focusing on the patients and you are focusing already your partnership with some, with some clinics and everything, so you could have everything together to start creating this demand of medical cannabis in Colombia. That at this moment you are having more of demand of raw materials than at the demand of the patients. So I will congratulate you for that, and I think the plan is good. I will need another type of details, but your plan is really good because you are working with the patients. So
yeah, absolutely. We think that having a strategy of exportation of either raw flower or distillate and isolate into Germany, Colombia, Argentina, Canada, US, and that is not the strategy that we're doing.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, really, really interesting. All the questions from every single one of you. Really, it make easier to the accredited investors that are watching all the presentations today. It'll clarify a lot of questions that they might have as well. And yes, Michael, definitely. As I said before, Cana Verde is one of that leading company that is actually finally building a totally virgin market, ready to be explored. And once Colombia it's successfully entered, then we can figure out Latin America. And there's time for it, since we are almost 5 years ahead. And take a look at our learning curve. We're still working on it, and there's no product yet in Colombia. So this is a good reference for other jurisdictions in Latin America. It takes time and patience and resilience. And as Jenny said, this year is going to finally happen, something at the federal level that is going to benefit every single one of us that have been resilient through all these long years. Finally, this year is going to be our year. We welcome now Matthew Nordgren. Matthew is